We're New York's best talk radio, HTLA Radio 1.
This program is intended for mature audiences only. If you have any homicidal or suicidal feelings, please consult a doctor before listening to this program.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Good evening. Welcome to the show, of course. Tonight, yes, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's the one, the only Crash Talk on HTLA Radio 1, New York's best talk. Yes, it is, and that's what we got rolling tonight. And hey, what are we talking about tonight, ladies and gentlemen, you may ask? Well, we're talking about trust. As a matter of fact, that's the big focus. Yes, that's the focus on the show today. Yeah. A little trust. Good evening. Welcome to the show. I am Chris Crash Jesus Taylor in HTLA Studio 2 tonight for Crash Talk, for your Crash Talk Tuesday. And, yeah, it's good to be here. Good to be here. And, trust. Yeah, what does that word mean to you? It's kind of interesting. Yeah. What does it mean to you? I think I got a kind of an idea of what it's supposed to mean to me. You know, I pretty much feel that I have a sense of what that is. Yes. And I think that the majority of public out there does too. I think you all would agree that yes, you know and understand what trust is, don't you? Yeah. You do. Of course you do. And we understand breaches of trust and all that good stuff too, don't we? Yes, we do. Well, then you're either going to really love this show or you're really going to hate this show tonight. Yeah. I don't know which it's going to be, but we're going to find out very shortly. Thank you very much. Yes. What is it? What is it about trust that has me so riled this week? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm really glad you asked. Something that's been going on for a couple of years now. Yeah, a couple of years. Maybe even longer. I might have some conspiracy theorist guys out there, friends of mine that I know and love out there somewhere in the ether, who may have more specific information for me. But I'm going to say the last couple of years, I've noticed that there's been a trend. And it was, I don't know, did it really start innocuous? I guess it kind of did. Yeah, I would say it started kind of innocuous, you know. Well, and I know why, too. But I'm being very vague here, and this isn't very fair to you, the listeners. So, good evening. Welcome. The Crash Talk, of course, this Tuesday night special from HTLA Radio 1, New York's best talk, is coming to you this Tuesday, the 19th of May, 2015. And it's a show. It's a show. It's about the police. I'll say that much. It's about the damn police. Yes. Tonight I'm looking at the police and the stockpiling of more and more military-grade gear. And I'm going to ask a couple of questions, like, is it for law enforcement or something else more sinister, perhaps? That's what I'm rolling here tonight, so if you're interested in the least, stick around.
HTLA Radio 1.
HTLA Radio 1 in New York City proudly presents Crash Talk.
Gentlemen, HTLA 97.3 FM in New York proudly presents rock superstar Crash Jesus.
we go, ladies and gentlemen. Where's the kids? Well, there's the kids. Hi, kids. That's right. There they are. Good evening and welcome back to the show. Of course, Crash Talk for this Tuesday night. HTLA Radio 1, New York's Best Talk. And we're brought to you in part by the fine folks at Tim Hortons, New York City. Now with 8 locations in that city. For all your coffee and baked goods needs, check them out. Tim Hortons, always fresh. Yes, always fresh. But the story that I'm talking about tonight isn't fresh. No. In fact, in doing research for the show, I found that as far back as 2001... Yeah, 2001, some police departments started to get things like armored Humvees, APCs, armored personnel carriers. Then in 2007, there started to be the distribution of things like robotic drones to groups like the LAPD SWAT, the New York Police Department, etc., the higher-profile police departments across the country. But then something weird happened. Something really weird happened. Oh, I don't know, I guess around 2010. And funny enough, that was the exact year that I came to the United States from good old Canada, where we don't have or need any of that kind of crap. Right. But what happened in 2010? You're sitting there still asking yourself, come on, you stupid moron, tell me. Well, that's, of course, when more advanced gear became available. Things like drones. And not the regular, go and get a movie camera drone for $2,000 and go film a movie. No, I'm talking about the $1 million drones. Police departments across the nation, in some areas, wanted them for apparently traffic management. The local news affiliates for the last 30 years have been using helicopters ever since Vietnam. 40 years. The hell. And, of course, indeed, on every street corner, it seems these days, we have cameras, don't we? Why do we need drones to monitor traffic? Well, all those kind of things started to really become, I don't know, more of a thing, more of some sort of cohesive thing. More and more police agencies all across America were getting these things. Small, little rural places you'd never expect in Wisconsin and Nebraska and South Dakota and Alabama, Nevada, Montana, Colorado, Oregon, and yes, even Washington State. Yeah, up there where they grow the apples and stuff. Yes, and now it seems, in this day and age, May 19th of 2015, it seems like just about every department out there has got at least some shape or form of military-grade equipment all across the police forces all across the country. Now, this is kind of odd to me. I'm of course speaking tonight with experience. I've been to police academy before. Granted in Canada, but I know what they train for, how they train, the equipment they had, and how everything worked, and the pepper spray and the taser guns and all the good stuff. In addition to the officers' sidearms and the shotguns and the cars, right? The usual stuff. Back when I went. 1999, we got trained on this other tool called the ASP. ASP. Kind of like the snake, And it's this weighted baton that's extendable. And it's very handy in riot and crowd control situations. It's handy one-on-one apprehending suspects, taking a suspect out at the knee, that kind of thing. All that apprehending stuff back when we were catching criminals and not just killing them. Way back then, yeah. Well, one of my friends, Wayne S. Pierce, over at the American Freedom Radio Network. Wayne, if you're listening, hey, how's it going, man? He's been on this stuff for years. He's been talking about this stuff, as well as, tons of other conspiracies and UFOs and Obama and on and on and on. But the police gear one always kind of stuck to me the last couple of years, because some of the gear that I'm seeing that these police departments are getting, I don't understand why they have it at all. I just don't understand, and I'm hoping. Actually, if any of you understand, you can feel free to call in tonight to the show, 914-873-1692. We can have a little chit-chat about this gear that, some of these things that they're getting, they require, a couple of weeks training. Well, if they don't already have the training, I kind of submit, that they're doing their jobs every day now. What do they need this stuff for? And indeed, when you're talking about a situation where politically, internationally, militaristically, how the U.S. is viewed across the planet, this escalation of all this gear within our own borders is, well, to be frank and fair, unsettling. We don't need this stuff. I mean, you stop and think about it. Unless we're expecting a full-scale invasion of, our own people. And how do we have a full-scale invasion of our own people when we're all here? We're all doing our thing. What the hell? What? It doesn't make any sense. And there's other things, too. There's FEMA camps. There's FEMA regions. And in these regions and in these camps, there's millions and millions and millions. I'm not even kidding. Millions. They're stacked up for all to see. If you've probably seen, if you go look at FEMA camps online there, you'll see tons of pictures of people taking pictures of inside these places through the fences or whatnot. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of armed vehicles. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stacks of thousands of plastic coffins. Now, I'm sorry, you can't sit there and tell me, oh, that's for disaster relief. That's for, when we have the next hurricane. Well, funny, because we have hurricanes and we have our tornadoes and we've had all that stuff in the last 4 or 5 years, along with the escalation of all this stuff. And have you ever seen a FEMA plastic coffin at any cleanup site after a hurricane or a tornado, or indeed any kind of natural disaster? Floods, we've had tons of those in the last 4 years. Where? No. They're not getting used for that stuff. They're not getting used for the things that they're telling us they're going to get used for. And all across the land, all across the country, people. There's acres and acres fenced off. Government land, keep out, trespassers will be shot, all the rest of the good stuff. And it's got all this stuff in it. Militarized vehicles, ammo depots. Yeah, underground bunkers that they're using to stockpile ammunition. Remember, what was it, about two and a half years ago, the government ordered an unprecedented, something like 1 billion rounds of ammunition? And everybody was like, what the hell they need all that for? Remember that? Well, it went into those bunkers. All that ammo for all their guns are sitting there waiting. All the guns are sitting there waiting. All the vehicles with guns mounted on them are sitting there waiting. And they say they're waiting for the next tornado, flood, or hurricane. And FEMA's going to come out and protect America. Well, this show is about trust. And I don't know if you've guessed or not, but I'm not feeling a whole lot of trust here. And, well, if any of you listeners out there in Radio Land and iTunes and iHeart and Spreaker and Podcast One and any of our 22 affiliates or any of the 3 bricks and mortar stations that rebroadcast our stuff here, If you're a regular listener to this show, you know I'm not. Absolutely not. Underscore not a conspiracy theorist in any way, shape, or form. I'm just not. I'm not wired that way. To me, there's always, reasons for things. And while we may not be privy to all the details, certain things are being put in place and certain things are being done because it needs to be done. And, well, us out here in Sheepland, we don't need to know all the details. And that's fair. I accept that. Absolutely. I do. And yes, I'm categorizing myself and putting myself in with the group that's the sheep. Absolutely. Because I'm just as much in the dark as you, aren't I? No different. Well, what could this possibly be for? What could it possibly be for? I mean, when you just get your mind going on what some of the implications would be, that why they would unveil this stuff and load up the officers and get out there and be policing or something in these things, armed to the teeth. Well, let's stop and look at a few recent events. Now, there's arguments for and against, of course. Well, we need this gear because of this, and we need this gear because of that. But then the arguments against kind of cancel those out, because the arguments against use common sense, and pretty much the sum total is that in the course of enforcing laws in this country, that stuff isn't needed. And indeed, when we have situations like, Ferguson, Missouri is a good example, where they actually called in the National Guard, well, that would be the military grade you would need and call in at that time. And I would say it was almost overkill. I would say it was almost overkill in Baltimore when they used it too, but it did shut everything up, didn't it? They calmed the whole thing down, broke it all up, next window, move on. And then that's really what needed to be done. So I'm okay with them calling in the National Guard for that. Yes, I am. And isn't it good that we have the National Guard for that? To call upon when we need that military-level response to civil disturbances, that kind of thing. Or indeed, in the past, in history, when we've had national emergencies, when we've had hurricanes, earthquakes, all that good stuff. The National Guard's always been there for that. So if that's the case, and that's the way it's been for the last 30, 40 years, what is all this? Now, some of the gear I'm talking about here is the most advanced military-grade stuff that's out there today for our boys and girls over in Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan and Libya and pick one. Yeah. For our fighting people all over the planet, the state-of-the-art gear that they're getting is the same stuff that our local police are getting. Our local small-town police. What was one of the... Victorville, Missouri, I think, was the town. Population of 700 people. They got this big, $900,000 APC. Armored personnel carrier. With not a water cannon on the top for like crowd control and stuff. No. 50 cal machine guns. Yeah. Well, that doesn't seem like it's very prudent. I mean, you got a town of 700 people. If half the town got pissed off and had a riot, that'd be 300 people. You wouldn't need this thing. But they have this thing. And all 6 police officers on that force, all 6 of them, only 2 of them are on shift at any one time. 6 of them and an old lady named Jean, who's their radio dispatch lady. That's the police force. They've got one of these things. Almost $1 million APC sitting in their police driveway, parking lot, whatever the hell it is. In this town of 700. You can't tell me that's for tornadoes. You can't tell me that's for a hurricane. Really? Yeah. Well, following a lot of public outcry against the use of military gear by police in Ferguson, Missouri, The president has announced that he's drawing the line between local police departments and military gear. Some Northland police officers say they don't agree with his decision. President Obama is putting his foot down concerning the federal government supplying local police departments with military-grade equipment, banning some types of equipment like tanks and camouflage uniforms and restricting others. The president says officers are beginning to look more like soldiers than peacekeepers, and he's right. You know, I don't agree with Obama on, well, anything. But I gotta say, when it comes to this, I actually agree with him on this. Do you know? Well, a lot of you don't know, because a lot of you haven't grown up in it. A lot of you aren't 47 years old like me and have seen the progression from what police used to be in the 70s and the 80s to what police are today. Now, in the 70s, a cop would be just your average Joe. He'd be in an average Joe cop outfit, uniform. He'd have a car with a single revolving red light on the roof, because it was the 70s. Things were simpler then. He had a radio, not a walkie-talkie. Nope. But he had a radio. Yes, in the car. He had a radio. And that radio, I don't know, probably 20-mile range. And it was simple. He had his sidearm, which was probably a Smith & Wesson Model K frame revolver, 6-shot, 38 caliber, just a standard little 38 wheel gun. You know, no Magnum, no 18-inch barrel, no fancy this, no 7,500 rounds of ammo in the trunk. No. He had a 6-shooter, a couple of speed loaders, so 18 rounds. Right? And he had a shotgun.